Spell Disc. This game is brimming with potential. Disc spell system is incredibly simple, but allows to complex interactions by synergy. Disc generate mana for their linking spell under different conditions. The idea is to create chain reaction between your disc and spells. For example, you could attach a disc that activates on physical hit to a cold spell, then attach a disc that activates on cold damage to a physical spell. Now you just start punching enemies, and these spells will trigger back and forth. You can also have artifacts with potentially build-defining passive effects. The price might seem high, but you're actually getting two games in one. Main mode is hack and slash roguelite. There is also a survivors mode, utilize the disc spell system but feel completely distinct. If you want to try the game first, there is a demo here for the main mode and a separate demo game called Spell Disc Survivors. Both modes are enjoyable and well executed, but can't quite compete with the best games in the same genre. With that said, this game still holds up well and gets a lot of things right. Hits feel satisfying, builds are interesting and varied. Enemy attacks are given their own color, purple. Important information like damage default per spell and which spells you have for each damage type are ready, visible, etc. There are even great little details like the fire cold damage relic changing the game numbers to a red-blue gradient. Very cool and original take on roguelike. Been enjoying it quite a lot. Since it's early access, I do have some suggestions. Improve item description. For later levels, it becomes rather difficult to distinguish your own spells and those of enemies. Maybe include some outlines for the animations and for the player character. Meta progression could use some expansion. One seems to progress quite fast here. The game is an action-based roguelite in which you gather spells and relics to become stronger as you progress through the floors of the tower in order to reach the top. This is not a dungeon crawler. There is only one path available to you, which I believe is randomly generated and follows some generic rules. I mean, 3 bosses evenly spaced, always a shop before a boss, and so on. The spells you gather are like special abilities and have multiple tags such as fire, cold, blunt, pierce, slashing, and more. However, the spells don't match on their own. You need to also collect these to cause them. Discs always have a condition for them to trigger and produce a certain amount of mana. These conditions can be as simple as an enemy spawns, but they can also be something like you deal fire damage or you cast a blunt spell. Each spell can have only one disc linked to it, and a disc only provides mana to its linked spell. Discs and spells alone can make some pretty impressive combos. But what really enables insane stuff are the artifacts. This provides passive effects, which can be as simple, you deal more damage, but they can also make your stuff more synergistic. For example, you might find a spell that makes blunt spells and pierce spells count as both types, which is great when trying to set up combos with spells and discs. It's also worth mentioning that the developer has been updating the game constantly since launch. They respond to feedback on the game's Steam discussions and have been implementing suggestions from users, sometimes within a day. The game already has a pretty solid foundation and many of the smaller issues have already been addressed. As long as they continue to smooth out the edges and introduce new content throughout early access, this game has the potential to become something special. It's already very enjoyable and reasonably polished in its current state, so I think it's worth supporting indie developers that are doing early access right.